Talk about what a big story. One of the most feared diagnoses for older people is Alzheimer's. Now, it's horrible when a loved one slowly loses their mental faculties.
Yeah, there is no known cure. It is the sixth leading cause of death in the country. Alzheimer's claimed about 121,500 Americans in 2019. An estimated 6.5 million people are living with Alzheimer's dementia in the U.S. right now.
Now, new research suggests there could be paths to developing a vaccine, a clinical trial beginning at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston.
So here to talk to us about it is neurologist Dr. Risa Sperling. She is the director of the Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment at that hospital. Dr. Sperling, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. So before we get to this new study, can you give us just, the basics on how the brain changes that are believed to be the causes of Alzheimer's to begin with?
We believe that proteins accumulate in the brain. In particular, you may have heard about amyloid plaques and also what we call tangles or tau that build up in the brain over many years. And the exciting news is that we can actually now detect that evidence before people have symptoms and hopefully one day prevent the symptoms of Alzheimer's dementia altogether.
Yeah, your hospital is launching a trial nasal vaccine after almost 20 years of research. So can you tell us how that's actually supposed to work?
Certainly. So we know that one of the things that seems to happen as we get older is our immune system, unfortunately, has more trouble clearing these amyloid plaques. And the idea in the nasal vaccine is that if we can stimulate the immune system through the nose, which has a direct connection to the brain, we might be able to help clear those plaques.
Wow, that's incredible, right? So obviously, so many people are hearing about this maybe for the first time. That's stage one of the trial. What is the goal at this stage? Like, what's the timeline here?
So that is a small trial beginning, as you said, in phase one. We also have trials going on right now where we're directly giving the antibodies. And what's exciting to me is that we're trying these therapies before people have symptoms in something called the AHEAD study. And the idea is that if we can clear those plaques early enough or even prevent them from forming, we can one day prevent the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease altogether. Many of these trials take 5 or 10 years ultimately to get answers. But we're trying multiple different ways of going after the immune system as early as possible.
Right.
So I have a lot of hope.
So do you think that this vaccine could also be, or this treatment could also be effective for all different types of dementia, not just Alzheimer's?
This particular vaccine and the antibodies I mentioned are primarily going after the amyloid plaques, which is a hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. But if we figure out how to harness the immune system like this, in the same way in COVID, we're trying to boost up the immune system against specific viruses. Here we're going after specific proteins. And if we can figure that out, hopefully one day we can help the brain clear multiple proteins and other processes that cause other forms of dementia.
You know, one thing we learned, during COVID was, people would often ask, is how are they able to develop a COVID vaccine so quickly, but for things like Alzheimer's, HIV, and other diseases and cancer that they haven't been able to find cures or treatments. So I guess the question is, the progress here has been very difficult for Alzheimer's specifically. Why?
I think one of the real problems that Alzheimer's disease really develops over probably 2 decades, and we've been treating it at relatively late stages of the disease. And I think actually COVID has also taught us that treating early and preventing infection or treating at the earliest possible time is helpful.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do in Alzheimer's disease, and that's really where the field is moving. And the AHEAD study is really testing that in people without symptoms at all.
Can you tell us anything about this recently approved drug from Biogen that seems to be of limited effectiveness, but it's very, very costly? Are there any other treatments?
There are multiple antibodies that are being developed. So the Biogen antibody is one and multiple other companies. We do know that these antibodies do a good job at clearing the amyloid plaque out of the brain. What's been controversial is whether we can actually slow the symptoms and ultimately really make people better with removing amyloid.
Yeah.
Again, my own bias is that if we do that earlier, before there's evidence of a lot of damage in the brain, we'll have a better chance of really bending that curve and helping people prevent symptoms or at least keep them at bay.
Gosh, I hope you're right. I really wish you luck. And thanks for coming on here, Doctor, to really explain all of what's happening there. Dr. Risa Sperling of Harvard and Boston's Brigham and Women's Hospital. Appreciate you being here.